This is problem number 5. A store is designing the space for rows of nested shopping carts. Each row has a starting cart that is 4 feet long, followed by the nested carts. And it tells you that 0 nested carts means that there's just the starting cart. Store measures a row of 13 nested carts, and that's 23.5 feet, and 18 nested carts, that's 31 feet long. So this is what nested carts looks like. So when you take carts and you slide them one on top of each other, that's called nesting. So these are nested carts. So 0 nested carts, this cart right here. The first cart is 4 feet long. And then the next cart, I'm going to show you how you calculate this in a moment. They want to know what the length is of each nested cart that's added on. And that answer is 1.5 feet. So we're going to go over how you calculate that in just a moment. So you add 1 nested cart. So this is 1 nested cart to this point right here. So 2 total carts, but 1 nested cart. And this is 2 nested carts. So again, the number of carts, the number of total carts is 3. The number of nested carts is 2. That's going to make a difference as we go through the problem. And so if you have 13 nested carts, now remember, that's a total of 14 carts. They just want you to look at the 13 carts that are nested. That equals 23.5 feet. I'm sorry, this includes the 4 feet in the beginning. So this is 23.5 feet. And then you go out to 18 nested carts. This again includes the 4 feet in the beginning, but 18 nested carts gives you a length of 31 feet. So to figure out how many feet per each nested cart, you just go past the 4 feet somewhere. Go out, and they went out to 13 nested carts to 18 nested carts. This means I add 5 carts. How many feet do you add for those 5 carts? Well, you add 7.5 feet. So how many feet is that per cart? That's 7.5 feet divided by 5 carts. That equals 1.5 feet per nested cart. I should put the word nested in here. So 1.5 feet per nested cart. So that's how many feet get added. Now notice, when you calculate the slope, if you have an x column and a y column, or an x coordinate and a y coordinate on graphs, the way that you calculate the slope is what's the change in the, let's do the y direction first. What's the change in the amount of y, or in the y direction, compared to the change in the x direction? Well, the change in y is 7.5 feet. So that's 31 minus 23 and 5/10. That's 7.5 feet there. And that is compared to the amount of change in the x value. So the x value is 18 minus 13 is 5. So this is just like figuring out the slope. So the change in x is 5, the change in y is 7.5. So 7.5 divided by 5 is 1.5. So 1.5 feet per nested cart. That is the slope to the graph, which is what we're going to look at right now. So I'm going to put the number of nested carts on the x-axis and the number of feet on the y-axis. Well, if I have 0 nested carts, that starts out at 0 nested carts, that starts out at 4 feet. So this is going to be a point right here, 0, 4. And then when I had 13 nested carts, that's 23.5 feet. So this point right here is 23.5. And when I had 18 nested carts, that measured 31 feet. So that point 31 feet is right here. Notice these are 3 feet each. 0, 3, 6, 9, 12. So you have to realize that this is 1/3 of the way. 31, 32, 33. And 23.5 is, this is 21, 22, 23. You gotta go up a little bit more to imagine where 23.5 is. All right, so the slope. So again, you could draw the slope triangle if you want from this point to 18 on the x-axis, and then 18 to 31. So the change along the y-axis is 31. That 31 minus 23.5. So how much is this changing along the y-axis? It's changing 7.5 feet. And how much is it changing along the x-axis? That is this 18 minus this 13. So 18 minus 13 is 5. So it's changing 5 units along the x-axis, 7.5 units along the y-axis. So that is 1.5 units per change in the y direction per 1 unit change in the x direction, which is 1.5 feet per nested cart. Now remember, go back a long time ago, we took that slope triangle, we slid it down to here by subtracting 23.5 and by subtracting 13. Subtract 13 to go over here, subtract 23.5 to slide it down to here, right here. All right, and they're going to ask you, so for feet increase, 1.5 feet for every 1 nested cart added to the row. That's what the slope means. And now they're going to ask, well, what if you have 43 feet in that row? How many carts is that equal to? And I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer is 26, because I can extend this line out and go up to where 43 is and go over to the x value for a y value of 43, and you're going to see that it lines up with 26. So it's 26 nested carts. I can also use the equation. We can write the equation to this line. We know all the parts. We know the slope is 1.5x, or 1.5, and we know that the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, is 4. And so now I can just plug in, I can check to see if this answer of 26 is in fact exactly 43 feet. So I plug 26 in here for the x value. So it's 1.5 feet for every 26 carts, I should have said, 26 nested carts. So it's 1.5 feet for every nested cart. I have 26 of them. So 26 times 1.5 is 39 total feet. And plus I have 4 feet with the starting cart. So 39 plus 4 is 43 feet. So it's just going back and forth. Now this is the answer to the question. I'm giving that to you first. You have all the information to figure it out. But this point right here is at 26 nested carts and 43 feet. All right, and so it says, how much does each nested cart add to the length of the row? Explain your reasoning. So this is, I just restated what I've said earlier. Each nested cart adds 1.5 feet to the row. It's 1.5 feet, and the slope is the slope of the line. The slope equals the change in feet, 1.5 feet for each unit change in nested carts. So 1 unit is 1 nested cart. That equals 1.5 feet. And how you calculated that, I showed you earlier. The store design allows for 43 feet for each row. How many total carts? Now this is going to be total carts, not just nested carts, but the total number of carts fit in a row. Well, 0 carts is 4 feet. X carts times 1.5 feet for the nested carts. Well, if I have 43 feet, I need to subtract that 4. So now that gets me at 39 feet. I need to subtract the 4 feet for the beginning cart. That's 39 feet. And how many carts is that 39 feet equal to? Well, 1.5 feet for each cart. So I divide 39 by 1.5, and you get 26 carts. So 39 feet divided by 1.5 feet per, and I should have put nested here, per nested cart. So that gives you 26 nested carts. But then you have to remember, add that 1 beginning cart. So that's a total of 27 carts. So don't get fooled. It's not 26 carts. It's 26 nested carts plus 1 more beginning cart gives you a total of 27 total carts. All right, let's use the equation. So y equals mx plus 4. We did that earlier, but let's just check it one more time. So they're giving you 43 feet. So now they're giving you the y value. So what you're going to end up doing is multiplying 43. We're going to get rid of the 4 first, but then you're going to end up by multiplying by the multiplicative inverse of 1.5, which is 1 over 1.5, which is the same as dividing by 1.5. That's why this stuff gets confusing. All right, so if I have the number of nested carts plus 4 equals the number of feet for the total number of feet, then to get the total number of carts, I have to subtract that 4. So it's going to be 4 feet less than 43. So 43 minus 4 is equal to 39. And that's going to be the total number of feet for the nested carts. So how many nested carts is that? Every time I take out 1.5 feet, that's 1 cart. So that's 39 divided by 1.5, which is the same. So now algebraically you say either divide by 1.5 or multiply by 1 over 1.5, which is the multiplicative inverse. And I like that better, actually. I like multiplying by 1 over 1.5, which is the same as dividing by 1.5. That equals x. That equals the number of carts. And it's the number of nested carts. Don't forget that. 26 nested carts is equal to 39 divided by 1.5. What are you doing here? You're taking 1.5 feet out each time. 1.5 feet is equal to 1 nested cart. How many times can you do that? You can do that 26 times. But then don't forget, you have to add that 1 cart at the beginning to give you a total of 27 total carts.